Well, it's Wednesday, so time for another clip. In this week's clip, I speak with a business owner about understanding why you are in business is more important than the how, and why focusing on the how is the worst way to build a business. Here's the clip.
Yeah, that's a great point, and that's a great segue into the next thing I wanted to talk to you about, which is really the difference between the how and the why. So in business, the how is the specific process that you use when you're conducting business, working with customers. That's typically what SOP, standard operating procedures, document. The why is the reason why your business exists. Like, what is the overall purpose of your business? What is your business exist to do in this world, right? Now, in all honesty, it's okay to say, it's all about money, but if you're saying it's all about money, and the why is really just it being all about money, you need to make decisions from that perspective, right? So in most cases, it's not all about the money. The money is there to sustain a way of life, but there's some higher purpose, there's some higher objective you want to achieve with the business. If you don't have one, I'd suggest look at it more as a job that you're creating for yourself rather than a business, just because with a business without purpose tends to just focus on the how, because there is no why. And what we're going to talk about really is why the why is so important. I know it sounds a bit strange when I say that, but does that make sense? Yeah. So the reason I mentioned that it's more of a job, because if you think of it, in most businesses that are around today, what are most entry level positions? They're positions that are primarily focused on the how you do things, follow this process, follow this procedure. Whereas what are the positions that executive and senior management typically have? They're ones that are more focused on delegating the how to the team members under them, while making sure that the why comes true. So almost looking at what the why is. Okay, you know what? For this quarter, this is why we as a business are in business. This is what we're going to accomplish. In order to accomplish that, there needs to be a how component. So we're going to delegate these hows to the different departments, right? So if you look at that dynamic, it should be very clear why. If you're just focusing on how, you're basically just creating a job for yourself. It's that doesn't mean that you can't build a multi-million dollar job for yourself. It just means that the route's going to be a lot more challenging. It's going to take a lot longer to get there, as a byproduct of just focusing on the how without the why. By focusing on the why, it gives you this, and I'll get to that in a second, but it gives you this ability to almost elevate yourself beyond being in the trenches and really see the forest for the trees. So the how is really the easiest part of running a business. How you run the business, how you complete a specific task, how you deploy blog posts, how you build a website, all of that's easy. It's very straightforward. Almost any problem in the world you can break down into smaller, easier problems to solve, meaning that's pretty much what the how is, right? Like, well, how do you build a multi-billion dollar company? Well, first you find out how to build a $1,000 company, then a $10,000 company, then you just kind of work your way up from there, right? So the how is very linear. It's very straightforward in a lot of cases. The other thing I also consider is with services like Upwork, Fiverr, and all of those, we have an unprecedented access to talent globally on a pay-per-use basis. Now, if you think of that for a moment, what does that mean? That means that almost any task within your business can be completed by someone else rather than you, right? So data entry, that can be completed by someone else. You can find people for 5, 10, 15, 20, even $30 an hour on Fiverr or on Upwork. Or, I mean, there's other services like Mechanical Turk that can bring those tasks down to a couple of cents per task, right? The point I'm making is that there are so many tools out there that help with the how, right? So not only do you have a cost-effective access to any skill that you need through freelancers, not only are there very few skills that aren't offered by freelancers, or there's a very small number of skills that you cannot access in the same model as you would with freelancers. Creativity also is at maximum when people have the freedom and flexibility to come up with new ways to solve a problem, right? So when you approach someone with a high level objective, this is why I'm trying to solve the problem, this is what the problem is, solve the problem. The more freedom you give them, the more creativity they'll be able to put into their work, and the byproduct in most cases is the more meaning they're going to draw from that added creativity that they got to put in their work, right? So really giving yourself the freedom to focus just on the why, and allowing your team, or freelancers or whatever resources you bring in to focus on the how. So win in both cases, because you get to really focus on the vision and making sure the overall strategy comes true, while your team is focused on solving those problems in those complex ways, right? Everyone kind of gets challenged in their own way. The other thing also to keep in mind is, if you're just focused on the how, you can spend an endless amount of time focusing on it, right? There's always a new feature you can do. There's always a new market you can expand into. There's almost an infinite number of ways on how to plan the how, right? Like there's many different ways to skin a cat. The most important reason to understand why the how is the easy part is, and this is the saying one of my old mentors used to say to me, customers don't care about how the sausage is made. They just care that the sausage tastes delicious. If you pause for a moment and you think about that, you can see how that alone is the most important reason why the how is the least important part of your business, right? The how is something you can bring in other experts, you can work with freelancers, you could work with peers, you can find a way to make sure that you're still delivering a quality product. But at the end of the day, quality comes second to solving the problem for your customer, right? So when you're solving a real problem, your customers really, in many cases, aren't going to care about how polished or how refined or how shiny something is, as long as it solves a really big problem. This is one of the reasons why a lot of business owners can actually get customers before they build a product, right? And that's actually the most ethical way to build a business, because now on your end, you know who you're solving your problem from. From the customer's perspective, they are involved in the problem being solved from day one. They have some input, they have some leeway, they can offer guidance so that the solution that's delivered to them actually works for them. It's not just, well, here you go, good luck, try and find a way to use it, right? So the again, when you focus on the why versus the how, drastic changes happen throughout the business. I mentioned earlier, you can't see the forest for the trees. That's saying that alone is an example of why focusing on the how rather than the why can have bad impact, can have a bad impact in your business, right? So when you focus on the how, your reality and how you view the business comes down to the perspective of someone that's in the forest, right? In the trenches, on the ground, day to day. This is what they're focusing on. The byproduct of that is you can't see what's around the corner, right? So when you're focused on the why, you're almost elevated above the forest. You get to see the entire forest from the air. You get to see all the obstacles that are in front. Maybe there's some clouds blocking some obstacles, but for the most part, you get a clearer view of where you're headed, what you're working towards, right? Now, from the air, you can see all of these obstacles along the path, giving you the opportunity to go, hey, you know what? We're going to make a small change here, and we're actually going to take the shortcut that'll bypass the obstacle altogether. We're going to change, or we're going to pivot. We're going to refocus, right? You can make a lot of these decisions ahead of time, right? The market in 2 months is going to adapt to being this, rather than waiting for that to happen. Let's adapt now. So once that change is complete, we're positioned really well, right? That is a byproduct of focusing on the why. Focusing on the how puts you back in the ground, and you can only see the trees in front of you. You have no understanding what's around the corner. You have no understanding that if you walk 10 feet to the right, there's a little shortcut that's going to bypass the obstacle right in front of you, right? When you focus on how you're so focused on being in the trenches that you lose the perspective of being able to see everything, by focusing on the why, right? Now when you want to understand why, you also need to understand why focus is so important. And focus is like, I could spend another hour or two just talking about why focus is so important, but for now, just think of focus as compound interest. So whenever we're talking about focus, I really want you to think of that mechanic of compound interest, where the results you get begin to magnify over time, right? So let me explain. So the greater degree of focus you put when you complete a task, the greater the amount of experience that you gain as a result of doing that task, right? Now, this again works very similar to the principle of compound interest, where the more tasks you do, the more focused tasks you do, the better you become at those tasks, meaning that it becomes easier for you to do those tasks. So in the same period of time, you can complete more of those same tasks, right? Again, compounding the results you get over time. Now, if you take a second and you think about the impact that focus has when you focus on the why rather than the how, you can see how that one shift of focusing on the why rather than the how creates a drastically different trajectory for your business. Do you see it? Okay, let me explain a little more. So when you spend time on the how, when you spend more time focusing on the how, you get better at the how, right? Just as the same as you get better at when you spend more time focusing on the why, you get better at that as well. Now, if you think about what that means, you'll discover focusing on the how ends up making you better at making the sausage, right? Eventually, at some point, you're going to reach a point in time where you can create the perfect sausage. But until you focus on the how to get more customers, or how to get word out about the perfect sausage you can create, or how to market your business, or any of those other how aspects of your business, you won't see a change in your overall business, right? Because the time you spend on how do I get more customers, it's not time you're spending on how do I make the best sausage, right? Now, on the other hand, if you focus on the why, you'll get better at everything that comes with that. So rather than spending all your time to make the perfect sausage, you'd spend it learning on how to make your business run smoothly. You'd spend it on learning how to accomplish getting your why in place sooner rather than later, right? The end result of focusing on the why is that you'd get to your destination a lot sooner. You'd build a team in the process, all of whom will enjoy the flexibility by delegating them the how to solve the problem, right? But most importantly, by focusing on the why, you will have created infrastructure required to make your business succeed, rather than you being that infrastructure. Does that make sense?
I hope you found that clip useful. Let me know in the description, do you focus on the how or the why of your business. As always, be sure to smash that like button and subscribe for new videos, which come out every Wednesday. If you're a business owner who's been struggling to solve a key problem in your business for at least 6 months, in the description below, you'll find a link for a complimentary one-on-one strategy session with me. Look forward to speaking with you.